everyone, and welcome to the How Long to Beat podcast. I'm your host, Paula, joined today, as always, by Josh or Avatash.
What's up, everybody?
And today, we have a kind of like a special topic, one that happens only once a year. So, as always, we'll be talking about the games we've beaten, what we've retired, or I've retired in this case, and the lots of games we've been playing. But also for the discussion topic, we have Game of the Month, the special creature triple feature, where we talk about the 3 games that were chosen, the spooky games that were chosen for October this year. And finally, we'll play a round of Guess the Game, where the aim of the game is to guess the Avatar game in this case. So Josh is gonna be quizzing me this time around.
More points for Paula time.
More points for me time. So yeah, why don't you kick us today in this?
Sure. Well, I spoke about it a bit last week, but I was playing Lies of P. And yes, I did finish it not long after we recorded that episode, because I just kind of played it all weekend until I'd finished it. And it was really, really good. And it ended really, really good. And it was really, really good all the way through. And I really, really liked it. Basically. But, to elaborate on that, the main thing that I liked about it was the writing and the characters and how the story played out, because especially in the final chapter, which ends up being quite a long chapter compared to the other chapters, everything kind of comes together and the whole story becomes what it has been working up to, and it pays off really well. And there are like a number of different endings that can have an effect on the bosses that you fight at the end, depending on how you've played during the game, which probably hints at a few things, but it's not as obvious as it might sound. But it's actually really satisfying, because you get to one point and you think you've finished and the credits are about to roll, but then no, time to fight some more. So that's kind of fun. And the whole last chapter, it kind of, for the entire game up to then, you've been basically working your way through the streets of this city and exploring different buildings and locations and that sort of thing. And then it just shifts gear completely to one huge location, which is the entire chapter, and multiple bosses in that same location, and multiple big story beats that kind of make or break the story for you, I guess. And it just ends up being this huge, epic kind of finale, which I enjoyed. I can see how it might have dragged on a bit for some people if they're not really into it, but I think it was a really good way to finish it, and I enjoyed the game a lot. I do have some notes just in case I forgot anything, but I think mostly, yeah, I don't want to spoil anything, but it's the world building and the writing and how the characters all end up playing off each other. And kind of there's a few reveals in that last chapter as well that change a lot. And yeah, that's all I'll say. But it's really good. I'm very, very happy with it. I still think it's one of the best games I've played this year, if not the best. It's definitely one that I've got most excited about. So that's good. I'm glad that I finished it. I almost started playing a New Game Plus, which I never do with those games. But then I just decided against it because I never do. So
Also, the backlog is real on this one.
Yeah, as long as it was as fun as it was, I didn't want it to end, but then I also didn't want to just repeat myself either, because that would kind of spoil it a bit, and I just wanted to keep it special. As you know, I played it, I experienced it, I had a good time. Leave it at that. But yeah, other than that, I beat a couple of other short games, which I started and beat in the same week. One of them was called Adventures of Bertram Fiddle, Episode 1, A Dreadly Business. And this is a very short kind of cut.
A mouthful.
Yeah. Short game, long title. Point and click adventure mystery game, basically. It's a 2D cartoony kind of style, and it's kind of taking the piss out of Sherlock Holmes in a way. It's set in that same sort of era, and ultimately you're a guy called Bertram Fiddle who is an adventurer and trying to go on adventures, but kind of keeps getting stopped because he has to solve other things, which is kind of the puzzles you have to solve. And you've got an offsider who's some weirdly looking guy, but with a very strong like Mexican accent, and I forget his name, but it was something different as well. It's a weird take on the whole Sherlock Holmes and Watson thing. And Sherlock Holmes and Watson are actually characters in the game as well, who are kind of pompous detectives that you're trying to compete with and outdo. But you're a bit of a fool. But you end up solving this case anyway, and everyone's happy. But it's a very short little game. I think it only took like an hour or two. But it was a good time. It was good fun. There's also an episode 2 as well, which I have in my backlog, so I'll play that sometime. And I expect pretty much more of the same. But it's good little humor. There's some good art. There's some good puzzles in there. Most of it's pretty straightforward if you're into point and clicks anyway. But yeah, it was a fun game. Additionally, I played a game called Toren, Toren, Toren. And this was an interesting one because I really didn't quite know what to expect. But it's one of those games that feels very kind of indie, like there's a bit of jank. The animations are a bit funky. The controls are not so great. The platforming is not so great. But you kind of forgive it because it is obviously a lower scope, lower budget kind of game. The premise of the game is basically there's a tower called Toren, which has been built by, well, I really like the way they told it, so I wrote it down. So Toren is a tower built by the arrogance of man that reaches to the heavens. In response, the sun has refused to leave the sky and never sets, so time has stopped. There's a prophecy that says only a girl full of the hearts of humanity can climb the tower, defeat the dragon that protects it, and return the moon to the sky. And that's basically the game. You're the girl, and you climb the tower, and you defeat the dragon, and you win the day, kind of thing. And it's very, very surreal, and you basically are working your way up this literal tower, doing some 3D platforming and that kind of thing, with very, very floaty, imprecise controls. You hit jump and she kind of just floats for a while and then decides to land, so it's really hard to tell where you are going to land. There's also then shrines on the way up, and if you pray at a shrine, it takes you to another map, which is like a dream sequence. So you end up in a very surreal kind of landscape where there are enemies as well, just moving around the map. They don't necessarily go after you all the time, but if you touch them, you die and you have to start again. And it's kind of that's a puzzle aspect where you have to kind of get through the map without hitting things or without falling off the edge, basically. And it's pretty straightforward, but sometimes it can be frustrating because of the somewhat dodgy controls and dodgy platforming, which there were a couple of times where I did stuff up because of weird controls, but it then sent me all the way back to the beginning, and I found myself swearing at the game quite a bit and just saying, come on. Like, what are you doing? And I made a lot of noise when I played this game because it was a weird balance between annoying controls with 3D platforming, because I don't like that anyway. It's not my jam. But then the premise and the story and the uncovering how it will all finish up was kind of enough to keep me interested. But there's some real dodgy stuff in there. Like on one level, there's a gap you've got to get across, and there's invisible platforms that you have to walk on, like literally invisible platforms. So you have to kind of trial and error guess your way across this gap because it's like a little maze of invisible platforms, and there's nothing telling you where they are. You've just got to kind of guess and go for it. And if you fall down, you end up way back at the beginning of the level. And you've got to come back and remember where you fell down so that you don't fall down again, and it's just annoying. There's another level towards the end where you have to navigate effectively a maze, but it's pitch black. And so if you fall off the edge of the maze, you get sent back to the beginning and you have to start again. But what happens is lightning strikes, and that's when you can see the entire maze. So wherever you are, every now and then, whenever lightning strikes, you can see where you're going. Sounds good.
Mm.
But lightning only strikes, I sat and counted it, it's like every 10 to 15 seconds, which doesn't sound too long, but it is when you're waiting for it.
Yeah.
It's a long time between flashes. So you get a flash and you might see how to progress a little way. But then once you've done that, you're kind of standing there just waiting, and waiting for another flash. And then, oh, there it is. And you get another 2 steps forward, and then you're standing there waiting again. And yeah, there are some design decisions like that where I was like, this is a bit rough and kind of annoying. Not fun gameplay or a fun challenge. Just a bit of an annoying one.
I'm looking at the Steam trailer, and it actually looks like very bright in the sense of there's like a lot of light exposure. Like the exposure is like very high. So it kind of
Yeah.
looks washed out a little bit.
Yeah, and that's true for probably most of the game. Like there's this one level where it's pitch black, but most of it is they mess with the colors and the lighting a bit because it is quite surreal and a bit weird in that sense. But well, I guess the best way I could sum it up is like by the time I got to the end, I thought, well, that was okay for. I thought it must be a team of say 1 or 2 people who made this. So very well, it's limited. It's a bit janky. Nothing's perfect. There are some weird design decisions, but maybe they're just trying out. Rah, rah. And then the credits rolled, and I'm like, there are too many people involved in this for it to be this bad. I mean, I still applaud anyone for making a game and finishing it, and they obviously put in a lot of work. And I don't like bagging people's work in that sense, but there was a lot of problems in this game, and I think if they had the chance or maybe the time or the opportunity or whatever stopped them from working on it more, I think they would have been able to tighten things up a lot more and perhaps done a bit more playtesting perhaps or something to kind of get some more feedback or that sort of thing, because yeah, some of the decisions were just, I don't know, they baffled me as to why you would include that in your game. Especially as a necessity, a necessary part of the game. Because I know in Dark Souls there are areas where if you walk along completely invisible platforms, you can get to areas that you otherwise can't get to. And it's mental and it's stupid. Unless you know what you're doing, you're not going to do it. But you don't have to do it either. So you can easily progress without doing the weird invisible platform thing. Whereas in this game, you have to do it if you want to progress. And if you fail, you get sent back to the beginning and have to start again. So it's a little bit too harsh in my view. Because, that doesn't end up being very enjoyable. But there was great music as well. The soundtrack was awesome. The story was interesting. The art, interestingly, during the credits, they had basically a lot of concept art and stuff, which again was a shame because it was better than the art that was in the actual game. And I was like, man, they should have just done a 2D platformer with this art instead of trying to make it 3D and a bit janky like it was. So yeah, it was a bit of an interesting game to play, but not one I'd suggest run out and buy unless you're just really into short little weird indie experiments. So yeah, that was Toren anyway. I think that's pretty much everything I beat this week. Yeah, it is. But Paula, you've beaten one that you've been working on for a while, so why don't you tell us about it?
I finally finished Café Enchanté, or at the very least, like the one route that I wanted to replay.
Mm-hmm.
But the reduced route, so I consider it finished.
Nice.
So overall, I really, really like this game. Like it has a special place in my heart, but I know that it isn't for everyone because first of all, it is like a fantasy kind of like, hey, there's a coffee shop where mythological beings like go to drink coffee. But at the same time, the premise sounds happy, but holy moly, the game has some tearjerkers of a moment or even like some moments where it's like, okay, I didn't expect that in my happy coffee game, but I guess we're here. It gets a little bit dark and gritty in some of the routes and very, very sad in others. So that's a thing. One thing that I have to say is that I replayed the route, which is the Fallen Angel.
Hmm.
And going back into the game, like, you start seeing things you didn't see the first round because, know the full picture of it. And now everything makes sense.
Yeah, right.
Uh,
That's cool.
yeah, which is always cool to see. Um, the other thing is that um, the way the story flows is very interesting. There's like a lot of uncertainty on this route in particular until everything like falls into place. And after the turning point of the route, I'm trying to be as vague as possible. You pretty much have to go fight uh, the big body, and there's like I'm gonna call it like a mid-boss battle, though it is a visual novel, so you don't actually do any battling. But I have to
Nice.
say, I wish this was animated in some shape or form because the battle itself was really high energy, and I really would like to see it animated because it was kind of epic. But I guess that is one of the things that held you back when you're a visual novel. You can't really see. You kind of have to imagine lots of things because they give to each route like a limited amount of CGs that are the full body pictures kind of thing.
Mm. Mm.
And they didn't use one for the battle, and that makes me kind of sad. But also, if they took away like any other CG in this route, I would be kind of sad too. So there's no winning in this game. Another thing is the music. As I said last week, is really good.
Yeah.
And especially the music in this route sounds like it would belong to a Japanese an RPG. Well, yeah, Japanese RPG or or a shonen anime,
Yeah.
rather than an otome game. And that just brings a smile to my face because I wasn't expecting to have like such a killer soundtrack here. And I have to say they nailed every single track on this game, like either for the like more calm cafe sequences or for the southern moments or even like the turn it up to 11 battle sequence. So yeah, I'm really happy with this one. So I'm happy not that I replayed one of the routes, so that should say something.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, I totally recommend Café Enchanté. Um, I should say if you're playing this one, take into account it isn't like the happy-go-lucky game that Axis Games makes it out to be. Actually, go look at the uh, Automate Japanese site because they did like a similar campaign to Axis, but instead of just leaving it as a happy-go-lucky game like the couple of weeks before the game released, they released some of the sadder moments too, or like a couple of CGs from the later part of the routes to give you like an idea of what you're really getting into. So if
Mm.
that doesn't detract you from playing it, go ahead, you're gonna have a fantastic time. Um, I could gush about this game, but I really don't want to spoil most of the route. So I'm gonna roll into my retirement. Which, by the way, this
Hmm.
is a game
Yep.
that I was praising last week, but after playing it some more, I kind of like just left it there. And that's the Wandering Village. So,
Mm.
as said, you control like a little settlement of survivors in this post-apocalyptic world. And you live on top of a Nambu, which is a reptilian thing with uh, a little biome on its back, so you're able to do your life and survive. One of the things that I didn't quite like Well, first of all, it is still in early access, so this can change. How it
Yeah.
feels like it doesn't really have an aim besides just surviving as long as possible, which I wouldn't
Yeah.
have an issue with if the game wasn't so slow. Because the only way you can get like more people into your village is to like run into some nomads and like integrated them into your village. So, and that happens like once in a blue moon. So you're kind of like being held back on how much you can progress on your little civilization by the amount of people you're able to find in your way. And sometimes you won't be able to find people at all because there are like forks in the road, and you could see like at one side the nomads, like the little nomad icons on the map. But if the Ombo doesn't want to listen to you and wants to go to the other way, you're not gonna get those nomads. So that's one thing that sucks. The other thing that sucks is that, again, you can progress a lot on technology, advancements in science and stuff like that. But the actual buildings that you can make and the actual buildings you can support, I guess, is determined by your population because almost every building will need a person, at least one person to operate it. And some related to the Ombu or like to expeditions will need two or more. And for them to work,
Right.
you need the full staff. So that kind of sucks. The other thing that kind of like the villagers are kind of dumb in a way. Like, they will surely at some point of your run will get poisoned, but they take a while to go to the doctor, even though the doctor has the equipment and has the herbs to treat them. So I had like a couple of them just dying of being badly poisoned because the fuckers didn't want to go to the doctor. At the end, I was just closing up the buildings and reopening them, and hopefully that will glitch their brain back into existence for them to go to the doctor. That kind
That's
of
pretty bad.
works half of the time, but anyway. Uh, so these little things about the Wandering Village, like I really like the looks of the game, the music, how the whole concept is planned out. I don't like as much the execution because how slow it feels compared to the other city builder games like Timberborn.
Hmm.
And the thing is that the stakes are very variable in a way. In a sense, and also the other thing that I don't understand is that at the beginning of the game, I was having like a lot of crops where I was planting, and then it kind of like each farmer settled on using like 3 squares of land, while before they were using like 10 each. So that slowed down my food income, and that obviously led to me having more people dedicated to food and not being able to use other buildings. So the game is still a little bit rough in some aspects, and I know it's in early access. I shouldn't be
Mm.
as I don't know as how I'm being like how mean I'm being with this game right now.
I mean, I think if anyone sells something, you're allowed to
Yeah,
criticize it, even if it is in early access.
that's the thing, and hopefully more people think like this or like this kind of like criticism is getting to the devs um
Yeah.
so they can make a better product. And finally, once you build all the buildings, there's really nothing else for you to do besides growing more your population and building more buildings. So yeah, that's
It's a bit
my sad
undercooked.
retirement. If this game ever gets like properly published, like not more on early access, like in actually like finished product kind of standard game. I might go back to it, but right now I'm rather lukewarm on it. So yeah, what have you been playing recently? Hopefully you've been having a better time.
I think I have in general. I've been, well, since finishing Liza P, because basically I put everything aside to play Liza P, so that kind of took away from a lot of things. But since finishing it, I've played Lords of the Fallen again, and I've been plugging my way through that. I am now much further in than I was when I had first retired it before I picked it up again, and I'm enjoying it. I'll probably finish it because I'm enjoying it. I'm not finding it too difficult either this time around, but it's definitely gotten to a point where I'm looking for them to change up the gameplay a little, because at the moment it's very much a very slow pace, which is fine, but essentially go to the point, the place that you haven't been before, face a tough enemy, then move to the next place, face a tough enemy, then move, do that over and over. Because the enemies have gotten tough enough that they're not quite, boss tough, but they're got to think about and take your time with kind of tough. And there's only like one of them at a time. So it's a very slow, methodical game at the moment. And I kind of want to just hack away at a bunch of dudes with my big sword sometimes, rather than trying to outsmart guys with shields and things. So, that's cool, but that's where I'm up to in the game anyway. I don't really have much more to add because it's pretty much the same game it still is. I'm interested to see where the bosses go towards the end as well, because I have fought another boss which was a little bit different because it was kind of monsterish, as opposed to just big warrior kind of boss. And yeah, that's kind of the highlight at the moment. So I'm looking forward to seeing what else is on offer and what kind of things will show up later in the game. Similarly, to go back again to Liza P, just one thing I didn't mention was I think one of the biggest criticisms of Liza P might be its difficulty level, because I think it's a bit easy. Most of the bosses that I faced in Liza P only took like a couple of attempts at most for me to beat, and I'm not that good. So I don't think that's my skill. It's more the level of the game. And as much as I enjoyed that, I have seen some people on Twitch and stuff say that it's a pretty easy game overall. So, if you want to find an easy Souls-like, it might be a good one to try as well. But anyway, one that I did pick up, and this was partly because I've mentioned before that my sister has recently started gaming, and she's got herself a PlayStation, and she's on my PlayStation Plus account, so she's trying a lot of games that are on PlayStation Plus, obviously, so that she doesn't have to buy them. And she started playing this game and got stuck. So she's like, "Can you play it so you can tell me how to get past this part?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sure." So I started playing Kena Bridge of Spirits, which is a very cartoony, almost Pixar-looking
Yeah, it kind of feels like you're playing a Pixar movie in a way.
Yeah, have you
I
played this,
played it.
Paula?
I haven't finished it. I think I'm on the early game though.
Okay. Yeah, the style is very Pixar game, cute, kind of cartoony, but very good. Like, I really like the art. And the game itself is interesting so far. I haven't got heaps far into it. I'm probably 4 or 5 hours in, maybe. So I'm decent enough way in. The basic premise, as far as I can tell, is that you're helping these spirits who lived in this kind of area that you're in, but there's like a bad, evil presence of enemies and like infection and stuff that's taken over the forest. So most of what you do is fight the enemies and then clear out the infection with your quote unquote rot, who are these cute little black dudes who act kind of like Pikmin in a way.
A little bit.
Where, yeah, like it's the only way I could think of it, where you go around collecting them and you get more and more and they just kind of follow you around and stuff. And then they help you when you fight things, or they can help move things in the environment, or like you can tell them go pick up that block and put it over there so I can climb up that platform or whatever. And when you're fighting things, you can use them to do extra special attacks because they'll form like a big hammer or something that you can do a big strong attack with. The fighting's very 3D action RPG kind of fighting. And it's cool so far. I mean, I'm not really far enough in to really know where the story's going overall, but I've fought a number of boss fights, which have been fun. Fun insofar as each boss kind of has their own challenge so far that I've fought anyway. And they're quite different, as in the part that my sister got stuck on was a boss who was very fast and very hard to kind of get away from. So you couldn't like attack them from distance. You had to kind of basically you had to parry their attacks. And as a new gamer, she wasn't down with she didn't really understand the whole parry system and how, when they attack, you quickly hit your block and it parries them and they get stunned for a second. And that's when you go in and do your attacks. And then you bugger off and you parry their next attack, stun them, and go in and do your attacks. And that's basically how you beat this boss really easily. But if you don't do that, he's really tough because he's hard to get away from and he's very quick and he's always on top of you, attacking you. So, that was fun to kind of... I recorded a little video of myself playing that boss and sent it to her and said, "This is how you do it, haha." And she sent me a message straight away saying, "So how do you parry? What button do you press?" So that's fun anyway, just because I'm kind of playing it with my sister, but not directly with, but just talking about it at the same time. But it's a good game so far. It seems like it's well made. I like the music. I like the style. I like the art. The story seems to be progressing well enough that, as much as I'm a little confused about what's going on, but I always kind of am, we're getting there. I'm keen to play some more, but don't really have much else to say about that right now. Similarly, I've played more Sea of Stars, and I even looked up to see what the hell and to beat time was for Sea of Stars, because I was playing it and I was thinking, I kind of don't know what's going on, and I'm not sure what the story is. I've become a pirate now, and I met up with a bunch of...
That seems random.
Yeah, I mean, my little group of adventurers, we met up with a group of pirates, and we're now pirates ourselves, and they've helped us get across the ocean to another location. But I'm not really sure what the big meta overall point is. I know there's something. Maybe I wasn't listening when it was talking about it at the beginning of the game, but I'm sure they'll fill me in later on when I eventually fight the big thing or whatever. But I still enjoy the game as far as the art is fantastic. It's just some of the best 2D top-downy RPG kind of pixel art that is going around. It looks comparable with other games I've seen that look really good, and playing it and seeing it all in motion is really good because the animations are great, the colors are great, everything just works. Yeah, I feel like I'm kind of just running a treadmill with that one at the moment, where I keep going to the place I haven't been, fight the enemies I haven't fought, and then go to the next place I haven't been to fight the enemies I haven't fought, and talk to the people I haven't talked to, and just kind of ticking off boxes without really knowing why. So maybe they'll get more into it later, we'll see. But the reason I looked at the time was because I think I'm about 6 hours in, and I thought, I wonder how much longer it is, and it's 30 hours for main story. So I was like, okay, maybe I haven't kind of hit the main story yet. That's always a possibility too.
Yep.
So we'll wait and see. I'll persist a little as well. But finally, the other game that I picked up today, which we'll probably talk about a little bit later because it is one of the Game of the Months, is F.E.A.R, or F.E.A.R. F.E.A.R is a classic of the genre. I picked it up probably in a sale, I want to say about 6 months ago or so, where I got the complete collection of F.E.A.R 1, 2, and 3 and the DLCs. And haven't got around to playing them yet, but now it's Game of the Month, so that's a good reason to play it. I picked them up because they're classic first-person shooters. I haven't really played them yet because I don't really vibe with horror games very well, because I'm a big fraidy cat and I get scared easily. So I kind of put it off. But I've played like the first hour today to try it out, and I really like it. It's definitely got its issues as far as it's dated, because it's from like 2002, if I recall correctly. So it's got that old school FPS design of when everything's trying to kind of compete with Half-Life, and they've started putting more story into FPS, so there's like dialogue sections and this kind of stuff, rather than just being flat out shooting like Doom or Quake or those sorts of games. So it's good because I like that, but it still suffers from similar things. Like, so far the whole location has been a generic kind of grey facility, because so as I was playing it, I was kind of going, yeah, so they used to set things in these sorts of facilities because then there's a good reason to have a room that's just full of water, because why not? And you have to swim and then climb the ladder on the other side, and or there's a good reason to have boxes everywhere that can act as cover, or maybe there's a weird pipeline system that you have to kind of navigate your way through because you can't go through the main corridor because it's blocked. And all these things only exist because you're in mysterious government facility. And if you're in any other location, it wouldn't make sense. So I can forgive it for all this kind of stuff because, I grew up with these games, so I kind of understand where they're coming from. But I can also see, I noticed already in the Discord, I think Nalb was talking about how it's kind of dated a little bit too much already. But we can talk about that when we talk about the Game of the Month. But one thing I do like about F.E.A.R, just as a game, forgetting about as a Game of the Month, is the horror aspects are kind of really well put together, as in there's some nice sound design where the classic thing of, you walk into a room and you can hear a baby crying in the distance, but it doesn't make sense because why would that happen here? And it's kind of freaky. You're constantly having visions of, on the cover, I think, of the game, there's like a little girl who looks like the girl from The Ring, and she shows up every now and then just because they do some really cool things where they play with your perspective a little. So you might come up to a corner which goes into a room that has a light source. So you see a shadow cast of like a little girl kind of running away. But then obviously you go around and there's nothing casting the shadow. But there's a big old light. So you kind of go, oh, something was there. And there's also one thing I really like in horror games, and they did it in like games like Max Payne and stuff, where they've got that thing where you're walking down the corridor and the lights go out and suddenly you're like knee high in blood and everything's kind of falling apart, and it just totally changes it up to like horror corridor. And you're like, cool, this is rad. You get to the end and something scares you and then it goes back to normal. And you're like, oh, it was just in my head. So I don't know this. This is just a game theory. I feel like, story-wise, what I know about the game so far is you're like a special ops dude, which is the F.E.A.R team. I forget what it stands for, but it's like first response something or other. I don't know. But you're sent into this facility because in the facility there's this dude who basically has mind control over a bunch of clones, which is like an entire army of dudes who make up all your enemies. And so your job as the special ops dude is to go in there and take him out. But my theory is that your dude is actually an experiment as well, because you keep seeing things and you're like psychically connected to this dude. And he keeps showing up and being like, I'm killing everyone and I like to eat them as well. And isn't that scary? And then like you're seeing this child run around and chase you, and you get blood corridors and things. And yeah, it's kind of cool. But, very 2002, I think. But there's a lot of little subtle things. Like right towards the beginning, there's this part where you're walking into a room that has like tiles on the walls. And as you walk through the room, that the tiles kind of kick off a bit. Like some of them pop off the wall just supernaturally. So there's no reason for it. It's just kind of creepy and a bit unsettling. So I am hoping I'll be able to make it through this all the way to the end. I don't think it's super long anyway. I think you can get through in about like 6 hours or something. But I really like first-person shooters. I really like this era as well, even though I know it's full of problems. And I like the creativity of it, which the last thing I'll say about F.E.A.R was I do remember when it came out, the one thing it was like very much applauded for was the enemy behaviors. Because up till that point, a lot of enemies in games would just kind of see you and start running at you and shooting at you. And that's pretty much what they did. They were just like, I'm coming after you because I can see you, kind of thing. Whereas these guys in F.E.A.R will actively take cover, or they will try and outflank you by running away, but going around a corridor to come up behind you. And they'll start doing those sorts of tactical kind of moves that aren't heaps advanced, to be fair, but more advanced than anything at the time, and very much what people have developed since then into, enemy AI and stuff these days. So seeing that happen is kind of cool because it does kind of set it apart from like Half-Life and those sorts of games. Mostly because their enemies are pretty dumb. They're just, oh, there you are, and they start coming towards you, kind of thing. So it's nice to see enemies with a bit more of a challenge, or that will surprise you a little bit more, I guess.
A little bit more crafty.
Yeah, just makes it more fun and makes it more unpredictable. But yeah, we'll look at that a little bit more in a bit. But you've also been playing a lot as well, Paula. So take it away. A couple of them I've played too, which is nice. But one of them.
Right now I'm playing Hamtaro Rainbow Rescue, and this one is thanks to that little friend group where we pick a game each month, and this
Yep.
is the game of the month there. So it is a very simple game. It is a Hamtaro game. If you don't know Hamtaro, it is a very old. I think it was an anime. I don't know if there's a manga of it, but there's an anime where there's like little hamsters that go into daily adventures with other hamsters.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't know if you know the movie The Secret Life of Pets or something like that, it's called.
Yeah.
Well, it's kind of like that concept where once the owner goes away for the day, the hamsters just do whatever. So Hamtaro kind of like has his owner. When she goes to school, he decides to go in little adventures and escapes his cage and goes meet with the other hamsters in the neighborhood. So they all play together and they go on adventures together, and it's like a very episodic thing. So
Nice.
in that regard, Rainbow Rescue feels like an episode of Hamtaro in the sense of there's like a little conflict. It's quite easily resolved at the end of the day, and hopefully everyone is happy at the end of the day thanks to that. So here they were like just watching a rainbow, and suddenly the rainbow disappeared and something fell from the rainbow, and it was another hamster called Bo, and it he seems to be from Rainbow Land, and he needs to fix his magic umbrella so he can create a rainbow and go home.
Nice.
So you have to collect like items of 7 colors and give them to Bo so he can absorb them, the color with the umbrella, and fix
Mm-hmm.
his little umbrella. So right now I just got an orange. On my way to the sunflower farm. And this game is really cute. Like the pixel art in general is very charming, very well done, like stupidly adorable. That's how I it is stupidly cute. Like they really like knock it out of the park with the pixel art. The music is nothing to write home about. The story is like very simple. The game is more aimed at children, I think.
Looks
But
like it.
yeah, but for a simple game, it's like something, especially after playing Convention Day, was a very welcome change of pace where nothing bad happens. You just have
Nice.
to help a hamster back to go back to Rainbow Land. And
Yeah.
that's all that matters. Another game that I've been playing is Golf Pix. And this one is from the creators of M4thew and I forgot the other game, but it's the one that you make little puzzles and make the kind of like the train wagons go to the train by I forget the name of the game, but
Mm.
they're they're a developer that I really like the work of. So
Railbound.
Railbound, that's the name. Yeah, that's the game. So I've
Oh, and
been playing a little bit.
they've made a cute little bento box puzzle game as well, where you put together bento boxes.
That's Invento, and it is adorable. I
It
love
looks
it.
awesome. Because I've played Golf Peaks as well, and I really enjoyed it. So yeah.
We'll play the other two Golf Pix right now. I think it was the first game they developed, I think,
Oh, okay.
out of the three. I think. Don't quote me on that.
Sure.
Rare is the more recent one.
Okay.
And they all three of these games have that charm of you have this very simple mechanic and you use it to solve the puzzle, and then once you exhausted all the possibilities with that, they give you another mechanic to solve a bunch of other puzzles, and then you combine the two mechanics together and do a lot of good stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, for those listening to us in Golf Peaks, you try to you're pretty much playing mini golf in a very special puzzly way, in the sense of you have a set amount of movements that you can do before you run out of movements, and you have to try to get the ball into the hole with these movements.
Mhm.
Hopefully without falling into mud pits or off the map in the process. So not only you have these movements, but the maps will change and get more complex as you advance through the game. So you have to take into account that there are inclinations, that there are like hazards like water, sand, or mud, and they will all interact differently with each kind of movement that you get. Usually, at least as far as I can tell from, I think I'm on World 5. Yeah, on World
Mhm.
5. You have kind of like two kind of movements that are like advance the just roll and then a jump,
Yep.
and you have like a lot of combinations from those two that are given to you in the form of cards. So you select the
Mhm.
card you want to use and aim the way you want to move, and then watch what the ball does before doing the next move.
Yeah, and
And
it gets quite hard. I remember.
yeah, I'm
Like,
at 5-7 and I got stuck.
mm.
So I got it like I left there like for the rest of the day. So probably today I'm gonna continue playing it.
Nice.
I do recommend it. Like for anyone who likes puzzle games, Golf Peaks, Invento, and Railgun are three excellent little games that you can't go wrong with.
Mm.
They're like quite solid in the sense of the gameplay feels tight, like everything feels like very well planned out, and they really do know how to make the most out of a very few amount of mechanics on the game. So it doesn't get overwhelming. The flow of the game on how they present you the mechanics is really good. And yeah, I love them.
I'd agree with that.
Really. Another little game that I've been playing, and this one I'm playing with my boyfriend, is Detective Pikachu. Because Detective Pikachu, for Switch, like the second game, is coming out on October 6th, and he pre-ordered it. And when I told him, hey, this is a continuation of a 3DS game, he was like, okay, I have to play the 3DS game. So since you can't really get it legally, thank you,
Right.
Nintendo, for shutting down the eShop for the 3DS. I got it from the 7 Seas, got it into my old 3DS that is jailbroken, and handed it to my boyfriend, and we're like kind of like playing together this one. So the overall plot of the game is that you're playing as Tim Goodman, who is, I guess, a teen who is looking for his father who disappeared like a couple of months ago. And he has to go to the F.E.A.R detective agency where his father worked to get a lead of the case. And there he meets a talking Pikachu, or a Pikachu he can understand, and has the very deep voice of Danny DeVito. And it is amazing. Like, I love it so much. And this Pikachu, like, he meets him after a little incident, and Pikachu seems to be like very good at detective stuff. So with Jim, they solve their first case and go to the big agency. Since Tim isn't really allowed into the investigation because it seems that there's very dangerous stuff going on, he just runs around town trying to get a lead himself with Pikachu. So
Nice.
what we've done so far is to solve the first case, which I really thought it was going to be shorter, but it isn't. Because it starts as a couple of Pokemon like just running around stealing stuff, and it's like, okay, we're gonna get the thing back. And then it grows into something larger in the sense of it doesn't just end with the Pokemon stealing something, it ends with another incident involving said Pokemon.
Cool.
So in that case, I'm happy that it isn't like as straightforward as it seemed to be like when we were starting out. Still, there are like quick time events for some actions in particular. You have to collect information by talking to witnesses. And also, since you have Pikachu by your side, sorry, the great detective Pikachu by your side, as he called himself, he will talk to Pokemon and tell you their testimonies too, so you can work together to solve the case involving people and Pokemon, which is kind of nice. Some Pokemon have like very useful testimonies. Some are just silly. Like there's a Pidove that is like a dove Pokemon, or like, and it is just stupid. Sorry, but I know like that pigeons are usually very silly beings. And the thing with Pidove is that it has like a face, or like those eyes that you look into its eyes and you see that there's nothing behind those eyes. And
Nice.
their testimonies are completely useless. Like they just tell you like, hey, what are you looking at? Like, what are you looking for? An apom. What's an apom? Okay, I guess you haven't seen an apom. And also, what's your name? Because I saw that guy who feeds you every day give you a name. Is it such and such? No. Is it such and such? No. Well, what's your name then? You know what? I kind of forgot. So it's like, And the funny thing is that my boyfriend has like a thing against pigeons. So having Pokemon pigeons being completely useless in investigation and just being silly little creatures just tip him off like in a very funny way. So that's amazing.
Nice.
So yeah. Um I've been having more fun than I expected to be having, so I'm happy.
Cool.
Another game that I've been playing is the Grandmaster's Diary. This one is a game developed by a friend in his free time,
Oh, cool.
and it has been available on Steam like for a couple of days, I think. And it is a very simple game where you play as Mac, who was just training with his, was it his brother or his cousin? I already forgot. And they teach you a very specific kind of like turn-based combat where you have like
Mm-hmm.
the starter move that you can chain with another move, and then you chain with a finisher move. So you have these three types of moves that you chain together to make like one single attack on an enemy. You usually have like the same combination of moves like throughout the game, but you can get items that allows you to execute a different chain of moves. And also you have a friend, an Arangina, sorry, called Amber that is pretty much attacking orange.
Nice.
And she will aid you in combat. So there's a particular thing called guard. So you have your guard and you have your HP. Once an enemy breaks your guard, they can start dealing damage to you on your HP. So you have,
Right.
and there's no actual healing during combat. So you have to learn to kind of like administrate your turns between guarding and healing and support moves in general to beat some of the tougher enemies. You don't have experience
Mm-hmm.
neither, so what you start is what you get. What you start with is what you get. And the game is
Cool.
very short. It's about an hour and a half long, maybe. And I'm already like halfway through. The thing about Mac is that he saves an Argentina named Amber. Amber says that there's gonna be like a war between Argentinas and wolves something. They're pretty much wolves. Because the Naranjinas managed to take an hostage in the form of a wolf pup. And Mac, since he's a little kid, he pretty much heard that there was a puppy in danger, and he was like, let's help him. It is a
Mm-hmm.
very simple plot. The characters are kind of funny. There are a lot of characters that you can talk with just because world building.
Nice.
But the game itself is like a very small scaled game because again, one developer that did everything in the game in their
Yeah.
free time. Um, the game is available completely in English, and he's working
Mm-hmm.
on a Spanish patch from what I gather.
And it
Um,
has a demo.
there's a demo.
It has a demo as well, which is good.
Oh, there you go. You
Yeah.
can just try out the game. Yeah, if you like it, throw a couple of bucks his way and play the full game. So yeah, that's the Ringmaster's Diary. I think the name of the game changed during development because there was another game named the way he wanted to name the game originally. But anyway,
Mm-hmm.
a very simple RPG, very short and kind of rough around the edges, but it's still a lot of fun.
Yeah, cool.
And the big one that I've been playing finally is Winter's Wish Spirits of Fiddle, which has graduated from the game that I played during treadmill time to just the automatic game that I'm playing currently. And finally, not only I went through the one of the common routes of the game, I'm actually in the character route. And there's
Nice.
a lot of things going on here, so buckle up. So again,
All right.
like I said that the main character Susanoo had the power of seeing threats, which are the emotions of people. And because of that, she can also predict where monsters that are born from the very negative emotions of people appear, because she can see people's emotions like 24/7. Unless they're vessels, because vessels have had their hearts sealed, in order for them to battle against said enemies called Fightfall.
Mm-hmm.
That's the overall gist of the story, like the big picture of it. So in chapter 1, you have to meet everyone and make a tough decision on which part of the city you're gonna work in. That could be Castletown, Samurai Town, or the Entertainment District. This being my first playthrough, I went to Samurai Town because I got a guide and there was like a recommended first route for you to uh, not um, um, not run into a wall of lore and stuff like that. So you are eased into the story this way.
Sounds good.
So there you have chapter 2 and 3, which is Samurai Town. By the way, there are 3 common routes in a way, because in each route you have like 2 characters, and depending on the decisions you take into these common routes is the character you end up with and the story you end up seeing. So I'm on... I passed common route number 1, and I'm on character route number 1 now, which is Kunitaka Tojo. And there's a case which disappearing blindfold, like suddenly appearing and disappearing blindfold on Samurai Town, and only on Samurai Town. So there seems to be like something going on here, and I think I have a theory of what is going on here. But I kind of don't want to say it because it would be spoilers, and I'm kind of worried about it. But I kind of want to say it because that way, if I can come back in the next episode and feel smart if I got it right.
Well, is it a spoiler if you don't know it's a spoiler?
That is true. So my theory right now is that this Bladefall in particular, they appear to have like some kind of paper thing on their, I'm gonna say, arms and legs. When they're trying to, the samurai, like the special samurai force are trying to deal the final blow to their mask, which is their weak point, they just disappear. As if we have like a case of this in an earlier chapter, and that turned out to be a blight file that was summoned by someone else, and they can like summon and unsummon it like freely. So there's a theory that there's someone behind this blight file in particular, like controlling them in a way. The weird thing is that we discovered that the paper thing in their arms and legs seems to be a weak spot too. And if you cut those, then you defeat it. Kind of like the lightfall that was tied to a Magatama in the previous chapters. So again, it all seems to point to someone controlling them. There's also been sticks found in the scene of the crime, like just plain wooden sticks there. And that was kind of weird, because why there's a stick, and why would anyone tie a blindfold to a stick? This will make sense in a little bit, I swear. The other thing is that during one of such platefall operations, Susuno was out and about, and she managed to trace the threats to the origin of said platefall. And she found a space that was too small for a full-grown adult. The platefall disappeared also before she could get to the place, but she saw where the thread was coming from beforehand, so that was kind of like weird. So I think that ties everything together, and is that this character Kunitaka has like a temple school going on, and he teaches kids things that they're like normally taught in summer schools. And he taught the kids how to make a very simple toy called an oyster catcher, which is a stick with a paper bird tied to an end.
Right.
So what I'm suspecting is that the person who sold the Magatama to the prior bad guy in the common route is handing out these toys to kids, and the kids don't know any better, so they're just playing around, and suddenly they manage to summon the Blightfall.
Cool.
So that's my theory right now, and I'm gonna tell you all next week if I'm correct or not.
Yeah, I have to see how it pans out.
Yeah, but when I saw that toy, everything kind of fell into place. So if it is, I'm gonna feel smart. And also it's gonna be like, hey, this is actually like where a mystery well done, because you could solve it before they tell you the actual result of the thing that solves the mystery.
Yeah, that's cool.
So yeah, that's Winter Witch. Also, it is very fluffy, and I appreciate it for it. Yeah, I think that's everything that I've been playing. That was a lot.
Yeah, I think we're both in the middle of a few things at the moment. So
Okay, so why don't we roll into our discussion topic, the Creature Triple Feature Game of the Month.
Yeah.
How about you start? Because I haven't played any of these 3 games yet. I know of them.
I was hoping you would have played at least one of them. The one that I will obviously have not played. So yeah, this month it's for anyone who hasn't heard before, the Triple Creature Feature, which is a Halloween themed month. So anything kind of spoopy, doesn't have to be super horror, but horror themes or scary Halloweeny type themes. And yeah, we always do 3 games because it just gives a bit of variety and something to do. Just a bit of a fun change for the year. And this month there are Luigi's Mansion, which is the game that I will obviously not be playing because I do not have Nintendo or access to it. I've heard lots of good things though, especially in the Discord with people talking about the game of the month. A lot of praise for Luigi's Mansion there. Then there's F.E.A.R, which I talked about a bit beforehand, as I started playing it today. And there's Grim Fandango, which I have played in the past multiple times because it's basically a Double Fine point and click, which I'm a fan of. But you haven't played any of these, Paula?
I haven't. I played a little bit of Luigi's Mansion 3, so I have like gist of how you play Luigi's Mansion though.
If you can tell me about it, because I don't know anything about Luigi's Mansion really.
Okay,
So I'm all ears.
So I think in Luigi's Mansion 1, your Luigi and have to rescue Mario in some haunted hotel. If I don't quote me on that though. So you get like this modified vacuum cleaner so you can absorb ghost. But for you to absorb the ghost, you have to feed the ghost in a fight.
Right.
So this vacuum cleaner has like a light so you can stun the ghost. You can vacuum the ghost to grab them from the tail or from the hand, I don't know. And then you whack them. you whack them like around. You just hit them that way until you lower their HP enough or hearts enough or whatever, life enough.
Yeah.
That's the gist of how you beat up this ghost. I know that there are like different kind of ghosts because I play Luigi's Mansion 3 a little bit. So there will be, I don't know, ghosts with shields or ghosts that are invisible until you flash the light on them and
Yep.
stuff like that. So the overall gameplay loop on how you battle these ghosts is pretty fun. Though I can't say a lot more than that because I think in my gameplay of Luigi's Mansion 3, I've only like beaten like the first ghost boss.
Yep.
But in Luigi's Mansion, it is like in the first one, I know there's like an hotel and you go floor by floor defeating the ghost. I know in the
Yep.
second one is more like a smaller houses or hotels. So it's more like bite size in a way.
Yep.
And the third one, I think it was in a hotel. And again, you were like in a holiday with all the Mario and all the friends. And you have to rescue them because something went wrong.
Cool.
That is the overall gist of it.
I mean, it looks cool. Like, even for a Nintendo game, it looks cool. No. I mean, in all seriousness, it does look interesting and like something that I'd be interested in playing because it's a bit different and yeah, I like the look of it.
Yeah, and the case of the original Luigi's Mansion, you can't legally get it because, again, it was available for the GameCube, and that chip has sales a long time ago. But it was available for the 3DS too. Guess what happened there? Why Nintendo? Why?
I think someone actually mentioned that on the Discord as well about that it's not very available.
Yeah, so it is, or you sell the 7 Cs or you sell the 7 Cs. So
Yeah.
since we're using the 3DS to play Detective Pikachu, still like, do I get it for 3DS or do I get it for the GameCube emulator? So I'm still deciding there.
Yep. Well, I'm just looking at the thread on Discord as well, and R2D2 said that they basically finished it in 5 hours as well. So it seems like a pretty straightforward kind of game. Although apparently he's kind of grown up with it, so he probably knows what he's doing anyway. But yeah, lots of praise from that for anyone who has played it. I've heard very good things, and people seem to agree with that across the board. Even nowadays, was they try it again for Game of the Month. Unlike F.E.A.R, which to talk about that a little, I've spoke about the actual game a bit before, but it seems like the general gist, at least so far, by most people, by a few people, but like Nalb and a couple of others on the forum and on the Discord, is that it's an old school FPS and not in a good way. I think Nalb called it he said it's a cross between a boomer and a cover shooter and doesn't do a good job of either, really. Which, is fair enough, and I can't necessarily disagree with that. I think my enjoyment of it is partly because it's a bit of nostalgia. Like, I remember playing these types of games and being a big fan of FPSs when these games were popular. So I've played a lot of games just like this one. So, and I think that kind of crosses over into, not to go too much of a tangent, but I feel like sometimes when people are telling me about Nintendo games, that's kind of, there's a bit of that involved as well. Like, they've played lots of Nintendo games, so they're very used to those kind of games, and they've got a bit of nostalgia associated with it as well. So they enjoy it a lot more than, say, someone like me who's coming in cold and is just taking it on face value. And I think F.E.A.R is a bit like that, where at least I feel like if you do come at it with a completely cold kind of perspective of playing a first-person shooter without expecting it to be dated or whatever, then it might kind of be a bit jarring as to how things have changed since this one was made. So I can definitely appreciate people not getting into it very much. Calbon as well has commented on the forum saying that they're enjoying it, but it is a bit kind of easy and meh overall. As well as, but they're enjoying the gameplay and the moment to moment stuff. They just want it to be a bit scarier and and the level design is a bit boring. But I think this is definitely one that I'm going to play as long as I can. Basically, if it becomes more scary and I get kind of worried and afraid and crying in a corner, then I'll stop playing it. But otherwise, I'll keep playing it and I'll finish it. But it might be a middle of the day with the lights on kind of thing. I'm not going to go play it like tonight when there's a thunderstorm outside and it's dark. So, but the other one, Grim Fandango, I definitely recommend to everybody. It's a stone cold classic. And there's even a remastered version, which is the best way to play it these days. Because, again, the stuff that made it kind of perhaps dated and old, a lot of that got fixed in the remastered version, such as it originally had tank controls, which were popular at the time, but not very popular these days. And the remastered version got rid of the tank controls, and it's just regular kind of 3D environment navigation. And it's a point and click, but you kind of move in a 3D environment, so it's that kind of point and click. And yeah, it's made by Double Fine, if I remember correctly, who, if you don't know, are the dudes who did like Day of the Tentacle and a bunch of other point and clicks back in the day. They did a lot of stuff for the LucasArts. Oh yeah, this was published by LucasArts, but I believe Tim Schafer was involved. Yeah, Tim Schafer and Brett Moglievsky, whose name I always stuff up, they went and formed Double Fine later on, and it's very much got their kind of stamp of point and click design and humor, because it's a very funny game as well, which is kind of cool. But yeah. And it's funny as well because you play as a character called Manny, who is essentially a skeleton death kind of character, if I remember correctly. But he's trying to like go against what he's meant to be doing for his job. Yeah, that's right. He's a travel agent at the Department of Death, but he goes on an adventure to basically change things and go against basically what he's meant to be doing. So you kind of go through the land of the dead, and it's very much based on Day of the Dead kind of stuff. So that kind of tradition and culture and design as well. Like a lot of the characters look like Day of the Dead characters that you'd see during the festival and that sort of thing. Which is cool. I think it's a nice, very colorful and creative kind of palette to draw from. But yeah, I'd say that the challenge for this game, if anyone wants to play it, is that it is a bit old school Moon logic for point and clicks at times, where you might get some random item from someone, and on the complete other side of the map, someone you met 2 hours ago and made a side comment. If you give this random thing to them, you'll get the key for the next bit that will let you progress, kind of thing. With no real reason why. But again, I think if you're used to those sorts of games, if you've played enough of them, you can kind of figure it out anyway. But if you're not used to that sort of stuff and essentially trying everything with everything you encounter, it could be a little bit challenging.
Yep.
But then I'd say it's the kind of game that I'd even say play it with a guide if you really want to, because it's just a fun game and it's a fun story and it's a absolute classic, so it's worth playing just for that reason as well, if you're into, experiencing classics from back in the day. But I think Grim Fandango is probably like the most solid game of the three. Not having any experience with Luigi's Mansion, but yeah, I think it's a very good lineup for Game of the Month, though. Because I know for me, Game of the Month often pushes me to play games that I wouldn't otherwise play if I have access to them, obviously. But yeah, I think playing these, you could do a lot worse. So I'm looking forward to see what everyone thinks about them throughout the month.
Hopefully I'm able to get either to Luigi's Mansion or Grim Fandango remastered.
Mm. I mean, I was even thinking Grim Fandango is that good. I was even thinking of replaying it myself. And I played the remaster version not too long ago, like probably within the last 5 years. And I played the original one, obviously, when it came out. And it's just a good game. And it's funny and it's humor. Yeah, it's just, yeah, definitely a good time. But yeah, I think that should about do it for this game of the month. It's now time for Paula to score more points and get even further ahead of me in our guessing game. I've picked one that I hope, beyond all hope, is kind of difficult. Not that that's why I picked it. I picked it because of it's got good completion notes and that sort of thing. But I don't know. It's again, it's really hard to tell, I find, because one thing I'm learning with doing this game, and I think perhaps you got the same thing, Paula, is you might see a game that you recognize really easily in someone's list that they've played, but then when you actually ask them about it, they're like, oh, I don't really remember. Or vice versa. You think, oh, what's that? That's a really obscure thing, but then you get it as soon as I open my mouth. So who knows?
Who knows?
So yeah, anyway, prepare your thinky brain.
Okay. I'm awake.
So this is kind of vague, but yeah, you never know. For a main story completion, this person took 6 hours and 40 minutes.
Okay, that's fairly short.
For main story. So yeah, that's on the bit above average. They said got lost / stuck a few times, explored a lot, but didn't find many collectibles.
6 hours, didn't find many collectibles.
So that is a little vague.
No, that one doesn't have collectibles.
I can tell you a lot of the comments, just to kind of add to that, is they all comment on collectibles. So seems like a common part of the game.
It can be that one because that one is like above 6 hours. No, those are too short. What have I played with collectibles now that I think about it? Okay, I'm gonna think out loud to make it more interesting because otherwise it's gonna be just Okay.
I mean, I do tend to cut out the long silences, so it's okay.
Okay, so I know it can't be What Lies in the Multiverse because it is more than 6 hours long, and you said that 6 hours was on the high end of the completion spectrum for only main story.
It's above average, like not by much, but it is above average.
Okay. So, what can it be? No, it can't be Majora's Mask because just the first loop of time is about 3 hours, and then you have to do all the dungeons. So that one has collectibles. But I haven't heard of anyone doing 6 hours for the Majora's Mask, so I doubt it.
It's not that one.
So, something that is 6 hours. I have played all the Mario games. Wait, is it Super Mario Odyssey? No, because that one took me 12 hours and I didn't do much collectibles either.
This particular game came out on basically everything.
Okay.
So it's not platform exclusive.
Oh, that one is GBA exclusive. No, Game Boy exclusive. Way too short. That's straightforward. I don't think that's the one. Nope. That one doesn't have collectibles.
And when I say it came out on everything, I mean the big consoles and PC.
That's what I'm thinking.
Not handhelds. Yeah.
Okay, give me the second clue.
All right. Sorry, I'll get there in a sec.
It's okay. I'm still thinking.
Yeah, I don't want it to be too obscure. So this comment, perhaps, it's quite specific. But I'm debating whether to blank out a couple of things initially. So this person did a main plus, and their time is below average at 6 hours and 54 minutes. So below average for main plus. And they said main story plus 2 toys plus 2 full emblems plus 3 lullabies plus 6 keyholes.
Can you repeat that?
So it's main story plus 2 toys.
2 toys.
Plus 2 full emblems. Plus 3 lullabies. Plus 6 keyholes.
This. Just to be sure, it isn't It Takes Two, right?
No.
No, it doesn't seem like it, but I just had to take it out of the way first.
Yeah, no, that's okay. Your brain gets hooked on stuff. And
It has keyholes. Lullabies. Oh.
So the average for main plus this is just under, because the average is 7 hours. The average for main story was 5.5.
The part of the emblems is the one that is throwing me off. I had a chance to see Ori and the Blind Forest?
No.
I don't think so, because of the lullabies. What game has lullabies? Can you tell me the times again?
The times?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the average for main story is 5.5 hours.
Okay.
Main plus sides is 7 hours.
Okay.
And I'll give you completionist later.
Yeah.
I've played this game.
You played this game.
Which, I don't know if that's a hint or not, but...
I'm trying to think.
It might rule some things out, at least.
The emblem part is the one that... Emblems and lullabies. Emblems and lullabies. Lullabies for what?
Who's to know?
When did I play this game?
You completed this game in 2018.
Okay, pre-pandemic. That's a long time ago.
I didn't even see when that was, but yeah.
I think I completed like a stupid amount of games in 2018 or 2019, so that's gonna be...
I'll remember that.
Okay, give me the third clue.
Okay, so the comments on their own probably aren't going to reveal much, but I'll give you some extra clues as well to kind of add to it. So for completionist, the average time for completionist is 10 hours.
Okay.
So that makes it 5.5, 7, and 10. So there's not a huge difference, but there's a little bit extra if you want to go for everything. And the completionist comments are not brilliant. But most of them just say, the average comment is essentially found all collectibles, got all achievements, finished the story. A lot of, this is where I'm just kind of paraphrasing them all a bit, because a number of them said that they had to use a guide to find everything. And by far, the most dominant platforms that it was played on are PC and PlayStation 4 by like a significant margin. So that's like the main platforms. But it is also on Xbox One and Switch.
Okay. Think.
But yeah, that main plus clue is kind of like the big one.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
With keyholes, lullabies, emblems, and toys.
Okay, let me think. I feel like I played something with toys besides It Takes Two, but I'm trying to think what.
Because the completionist clue isn't that great anyway, I do want to give you some more information. So this is the genres are adventure and platform.
Okay.
And the last thing, which might say a thing or two, is that it's published by Sony Computer Entertainment. So I think it was originally a PlayStation exclusive that then went everywhere else.
What?
Potentially. But I can't remember.
I feel like this game didn't make an impact on me because I feel like with all the clues, I should had already gotten it.
Yeah, I'm not sure what else to kind of give you on this, but let's have a look at some other things. What have we else got here? Average rating on How Long's Beat is 3.8 out of 5. It's quite popular. There's a lot of completions. There's almost 2,000 completions recorded.
I'm gonna get chewed out the comments.
Well, I don't know. I can definitely... It's the kind of game that I can see that perhaps you might have forgotten about it. Just because I know the kind of games I forget sometimes. Like Rayman last time. And not that this is anything like Rayman, but I don't want to mislead you there. But
Okay, I give up.
Okay. I'll read you the description without the actual game title.
Okay.
So just to see if you can get it from this, because this would be the very last thing that you could possibly hear about it before knowing. A land of discovery stretches out before you. Explore this beautiful, rugged world of game title. Armed with your wits and a will to overcome, and the guidance of a helpful fox, you must explore the enigmatic island, reach the tower's peak,
Rhyme!
and unlock its closely guarded secrets. Yes!
I forgot about that one.
Yeah. See, that's a good example because that's one that I remember quite well. But obviously it didn't stick in your head that much. So.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I don't remember anything about the collectibles. Like you said.
Oh, really?
And I don't remember a lullaby or anything.
Well, the lullabies were basically, you found them and you just kind of literally just collected them. Like you sung a lullaby or heard a lullaby and ticked off that box kind of thing. Like it wasn't used for anything, if I remember correctly. But yeah, there was a lot of stuff like that where you could find them, but they didn't necessarily have a function.
Yeah, the toys
It's just kind of part of the world building.
But anything else, like the emblems, the lullabies, everything else, it doesn't ring a bell at all.
Well, I mean, now you know how I feel. I joke. Oh well, that's Rhyme. I enjoyed the game. I think it was a good one to play if anyone's checking it out and interested. It's a very chill exploration game, basically, with some light platforming and obviously collectibles to find. So, yeah, there we go. All right, so we're still on 8 versus 3.
Yep.
With Paula in the lead. Yeah, let's see if I can actually score some points next time. Or keep the streak going of just sitting on 3. Maybe I just like 3. And that's all the points I need. So, you know, we'll have to find out.
Yep. Well then, that's everything for today's episode of How Long to Beat podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And hopefully you enjoyed it. Hopefully you didn't cringe at me not being able to remember stuff. And hopefully we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Yes. Goodbye. Thanks for listening. Sucks when you're trying to think, and it just doesn't come.